Welcome to the Common Man Football Show. My name is James Coburn, and today's episode, we're going to be talking about the Baltimore Ravens versus Jacksonville Jaguars Week 3 game based on analytics. And the analytics we're going to be talking about today is a ton of different things. It's basically statistics. Each week I collect all of the NFL data, whether it's offensive score percentage, field goal percent, every single data point you can imagine in terms of statistics is gathered, analyzed, and I just come up with these matchups, basically looking at how one team performs against another in terms of how they performed in the last 2 weeks. And yes, this is really early to make great predictions about what's going to happen based on only 2 weeks worth of data. However, I do think these videos are kind of fun. I'm also throwing in a couple individual matchups at the end in terms of some matchups to watch in this game, in terms of individual players based on data. But I figured I'd just do a full sort of course examination of how the Ravens have been performing in the last 2 weeks, how the Jacksonville Jaguars have been performing in the last 2 weeks based on data, and then of course get into the nitty-gritty in terms of who might win based on how they've performed in the last 2 weeks. So all the terms and definitions will be in the description. So let's begin with the Ravens versus Jaguars basics. So the basics when it comes to the Ravens and the Jaguars is it really favors the Ravens. The Ravens in many ways have been better when it comes to just their collective defensive scores. I mean, their defenses has been probably one of the best defenses in the last 2 weeks in terms of their performances. Their offense has also been one of the better offenses, surprisingly, in the NFL over the last 2 weeks. A couple concerns with the Ravens deal with turnovers, sacks, and offensive scoreability. They've been about average in the NFL in terms of the NFL teams in the last 2 weeks when it comes to their ability to put points on the board on each drive. They've had kind of a lackluster turnover percentage. They haven't really been, this is a team that you can get interceptions on and fumbles on, etc. This is also a team that you can sack. So they are not like this indefensible machine kind of thing. Their offense does perform well in terms of getting first downs, but the turnovers and the sacks definitely, and also the inability to put up points on every single drive, definitely kind of affects their offensive ability, in this particular game. But their defense does make up for it. I mean, their defense, again, has been one of the best in the NFL. They've been the best when it comes to points, in terms of preventing teams from scoring. They've been the best in the NFL when it comes to turnovers as well. So they pretty much have led the league in turnover percentage, which is the defense's ability to create turnovers. They've had a pretty high sack percentage as well, compared to the rest of the NFL, and they've also had a pretty high, actually the highest interception percentage. Areas of concern, offensively, they've not been the best when it comes to punt returns and kick returns. They've been kind of below average, significantly below average when it comes to their ability to get yardage on punt returns and kick returns, but their defense has been really good in terms of preventing punt returns and kick returns. Field goal percentage has been kind of bad, though. They've been kind of bottom of the league so far when it comes to field goal percentage. Extra point percentage has also been kind of lackluster. And in terms of punting average, they're about a little bit above average, but not amazing. The big things that put the Ravens over the Jaguars based on the basic data, the basic statistics, if you will, is just that they've just been performing a little bit better. Their offense has been performing a little bit better. Their defense in all phases, in terms of points allowed, in terms of offensive percentage of scores leading to, percentage of drives leading to scores, they've been, again, the best in the NFL when it comes to that. The defense has just been performing better than the Jaguars' defense, and the offense of the Ravens has been performing better than the Jaguars' offense. So that is why they're slightly favored. When you get to the Jacksonville side of things, the Jacksonville Jaguars' defense has been performing relatively well. They've been about a little bit above average, not amazing, but above average. But it's the offense has been kind of the issue. When you look at their total, their ability to create first downs on offense, whether it's rushing or passing, has not been that great. And then they also have had issues with turnovers. Pretty much are average compared to the rest of the NFL, a little bit below average when it comes to the amount of turnovers they create as offense. Their offensive scoreability is a little bit above average, but despite all the praise I gave to the defense, though, they've also given up a lot of points as well. They've been kind of below average when it comes to their defense's ability to prevent points from being put on the board on every single drive. So in many ways, they have an offense that kind of turns the ball over a little bit, and they have a defense that gives up a little too many points. Is the best way to kind of explain what their first 2 weeks have been. They've also had issues in terms of punt return and kick return yardage. Kick return yardage is about average, but punt return yardage has been kind of meh. They've also had issues on defense in terms of they're actually last in the NFL so far when it comes to punt return yardage allowed on special teams. Their field goal percentage has also been kind of bad, and their extra point percentage has also been bad as well. But they have been pretty high when it comes to punting average. So they're one of the better teams when it comes to punting the football overall against the NFL. But again, for the most part, the Ravens are favored just because their offense is a little bit better in certain manners, and their defense overall is better, especially better when it comes to preventing points from being put on the board. So those are kind of the advantages when it comes to the Ravens versus the Jaguars in terms of NFL basics. Now, when you get to the completion percentage data, the Ravens offense is going to have issues against the Jaguars. The Jaguars defense has been performing a heck of a lot better when it comes to preventing first down completions, second down completion percentage, and third down completion percentage. Those are major downs that the Jaguars defense has just been better compared to the Ravens. So that is definitely a concern for anybody, is that the Ravens offense has been struggling, and now they're about to face a Jaguars defense that does really well against something that the Ravens already don't do very well. So that is kind of a concern in terms of what might happen in this game. It is from a completion percentage standpoint. When you look at the Jaguars offense, this is kind of where the issues, it's kind of the same issue. It's kind of worse. The Jaguars offense has been very good when it comes to first down completion percentage, but pretty much bottom of the NFL when it comes to second down completion percentage, almost bottom in the NFL when it comes to third down completion percentage, and I might just add on that they've been bottom in the NFL when it comes to fourth down completion percentage. So first down completion percentage has been really good, but the ability to create for completions on second down, third down, and fourth down have been just lackluster, and now they're facing a Ravens defense that has been performing exceptionally well in terms of preventing first down completion percentage, has been performing well in terms of second down percentage, very good in terms of third down completion percentage, and I don't really want to continue on, but the bottom line is the Ravens defense has a this is going to be a very defensive game. I'm just going to be honest. It's going to be very defensive heavy. The Ravens defense beating the Jaguars defense, that's really the matchup in this game for the most part. And then when you get to rushing offense, so this is basically rushing offensive first down conversion splits. When it comes to the Ravens offense versus the Jaguars defense, they do have some advantages. The Jaguars defense has not been the best when it comes to second down conversion rate against the run, third down conversion rate against the run as well. And the Ravens have not been amazing. This is the other thing too. The Ravens have not really been that amazing when it comes to their ability to create first downs on second down or first downs on third down with the rush, but they have been better than the Jaguars so far. The Jaguars rushing defense in terms of these particular situations has not been doing that well in terms of the first 2 weeks of the season. So the Jaguars passing defense has been performing really well. It's just the rushing defense has not been performing the best when it comes to allowing first downs. I know a lot of people talk about yardage allowed in terms of rushing downs. Again, I'm looking at the efficiency of these particular plays. So I don't really care about how many yards is allowed. I'm caring about the efficiency. So if you're having issues, you're playing teams that like to pass the football a lot, and you got lucky, or at least you got a lead and they kind of went away from the run. But in terms of individual matchups, the Ravens kind of have this when it comes to the rushing offense. I think they'll have some advantages if they continue to perform the way that they've been performing. On top of it, the Jaguars keep performing like they've been performing. I think the Ravens rushing offense will have some advantages in this game, especially when it comes to second down and third down. Then when we get to the Jaguars' rushing offense versus the Ravens' rushing defense, the Jaguars will have some advantages in the game as well. The Ravens' passing defense has been performing really well, but their rushing defense has not exactly been the best ever, and the Jaguars' rushing offense is the thing that works on this team. Say what you will about the passing offense, which has been lackluster, but they have been able to run the football. Guys like Cam Robinson have definitely been doing their job to get the running game going, on top of Brandon Linder and all those other kind of guys, and of course Leonard Fournette, he's still there. So they have been at least competent when it comes to their ability to create first downs with the run, and they're facing a Ravens defense that has been a little bit lackluster when it comes to preventing first down conversions and against the run on first down, second down. Third down is a little bit more evenly matched in terms of that situation, but the big one is really the first down conversion. So I think the Jaguars will have success rushing the football against the Ravens defense overall. And then, of course, the other individual splits are here as well, so you can check those out. Then when we get to the passing defense, so when you look at the Baltimore Ravens passing offense versus the Jaguars passing defense, the biggest issue, again, is a completion percentage issue, but the Ravens have at least been able to be competent, despite the issues with completion percentage for the Ravens. They have been competent when it comes to creating first downs with the pass. By competent, I mean they've honestly got a little bit lucky, because completion percentage oftentimes correlates to more first down conversions. So they've been kind of a little bit lucky, to be honest. Despite the low completion percentage, they've still been able to get first downs. But they will have advantages. They'll be kind of evenly matched when it comes to first down situations in terms of first down. Second down situations, the Jaguars actually have an advantage there. They've been one of the better teams in the NFL on second down. Third down, advantage goes to the Ravens. And overall, I kind of give the edge, a slight edge, to the Ravens offense in this particular situation, at least when it comes to converting. Based on the completion percentage, I don't think the Ravens will be able to keep this up because of their completion percentage, but so far they have had a lot more, they've had a pretty decent conversion rate despite the issue with completions, but I do think this is something that's going to catch up. But for at least right now, in the last 2 weeks, there's a slight advantage for the Ravens when it comes to first down conversion rate. And then when we get to the Jaguars offense versus the Ravens passing defense, this is where there is some significant issues as well. The Jaguars' first down completion percentage on first down has been pretty dang good. And again, that's because of how high their completion percentage is. Again, the completion percentage oftentimes correlates to first down conversions, obviously. But their second down has been dismal. The third down ability to create first downs on third down, or at least their third down conversion rate, has been dismal. And the Ravens have been one of the better teams in the NFL when it comes to third down conversion rates. And on top of that, the Ravens' defense on second downs has also been a little bit better as well. So I think the Jaguars' offense, at least their passing offense, will continue to have the same sort of systemic issues that they've had on second down and third down. And I kind of give the advantage to the Ravens' defense when it comes to passing downs overall. So for the most part, I think, based on all the data, just like a big picture sort of examination of all that, is that the Jaguars, if they continue to run the football efficiently as they have in the last 2 weeks, they will have some ability to control the clock and do those other sort of things. The Ravens offense, I think, will struggle a little bit against the Jaguars defense when it comes to the passing offense, and the Jaguars passing offense will also struggle really mightily against the Ravens defense. And I think the biggest thing is honestly who gets the most turnovers, because the Ravens defense has been really, really exceptional this year up to this point in terms of the last 2 weeks in terms of creating turnovers, while the Jaguars have been okay. They've been good in that category, but not amazing. So that is definitely something to keep track of, to continue to watch and see how that develops, because that is somewhat of a concern to me in terms of this matchup. But overall, if you just look at the individual split analysis, it slightly favors the Ravens, but there is potential with the Jaguars if they can get their passing offense to perform a little bit better, which is a big if. They could have success. If they rely more on the rushing offense, they could actually have a little bit more success in this game. But again, whatever happens in this game game script definitely flows into this. So, they might have to abandon the run if they get down by a lot of points, which just happens. So, but if they continue to run the football well and they continue to control the clock, they definitely have a shot in this game if they're able to do those particular things and also not turn the football over, which is a big if. Now, when it comes to individual matchups, one matchup I want to highlight today is the matchup between Ronnie Stanley and Yannick, of course, the pass rusher from the Jacksonville Jaguars. Big sort of points of emphasis. Yannick is significantly faster for his size than Stanley. Yannick also has better flexibility compared to Stanley and better overall athleticism compared to Stanley. The explosiveness scores are pretty much identical. Again, explosiveness is that initial explosiveness out of your stance. So Yannick is not necessarily going to win with pure get off, off the snap sort of explosiveness, but I think he will have that speed and a little bit of that flexibility that I think will give him some advantages in this matchup. And then also a fun kind of little matchup to see is arm length as well, because Ronnie Stanley, in terms of his overall percentile grade, he has 95.41 percentile arm length, whereas Yannick only has 19.23. So this is always one of those fun matchups where you have the sort of short, speedy guy versus the slower, long-armed guy. So this is kind of a fun matchup to watch. It does kind of favor Yannick because of his speed, but it is a matchup nonetheless that I'm actually kind of excited to see. And then the last matchup is the wide receivers of the Jaguars versus the Ravens secondary players in terms of their athleticism. I was actually surprised of how athletic this Ravens cornerback group is. And I'm not even adding the rookie, of course, from Alabama, but guys like Brandon Carr and Jimmy Smith, exceptional athletes. Guys like Marquise Lee, he's a good athlete. I mean, that's the thing, is Marquise Lee is a decent athlete, but not exactly elite. He's not exactly as athletic as Brandon Carr. Really, it's been. Doesn't really compare to guys like Brandon Carr and Jimmy Smith. And Allen Hurns is more, he wins more with technique. He wins more with scheme, and those kind of short passes. He's very much like a Jarvis Landry type of guy, but a little bit better. He has better overall ability to create first downs than Jarvis Landry does. But you can see the kind of the disparity, and why I think the Ravens defense is so underrated is because of what they've been able to do in terms of the cornerback position, and also the secondary as well. They're fairly new guys, but I am excited to see what they do in the future because they have the athleticism to do anything against most wide receiver groups. And I think this is going to be a big matchup to watch to see how well the Jaguars wide receiver core does against these cornerbacks, because they have been playing exceptionally well and they have the athleticism to pretty much do whatever they want against these guys. So it will really, the route running will have to be on point in this particular game if the Jaguars want to do anything offensively against the Ravens defense. So overall, who do I think is going to win this game? I think this game should go to the Ravens. I just think that when you look at the individual matchups, when you look at the overall picture of this game, I think it just favors the Ravens. Their defense has been pretty outstanding. They're going up against an offense which has a turnover-prone kind of guy in Bortles. The wide receivers just seem to be a little overmatched as well against the secondary. And though I think the Jaguars, if the Jaguars can come into this game, run the football efficiently, control the clock, like do old school football. If they could do old school football in this game, and keep the score close and don't allow like a situation where they have to pass, they have a shot. They definitely have a shot, if they can do that. But will they do that? It's questionable. The Jaguars defense also has some, advantages against a guy like Joe Flacco, who has sort of turnover-prone sort of stuff, on top of, their wide receiver core not being the best either. So, again, this is an interesting matchup. I know it's funny to say that, but I do like both these defenses. I like the Jaguars defense. I really like the Ravens defense. So if you're a fan of defensive football, this is definitely the game to watch. But for the most part, again, I think it's a Ravens win. And of course, my name is James Coburn. You can find my work at draftcoburn.wordpress.com. You can also follow me on Twitter at Geometrics. And if you like this content and you want more content like this, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. Share this video as well with anybody that you know, and I'll talk to you guys in the next video. Peace.